Hello everyone, this is Kat and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. Today I'll be starting a fic entitled See You in the Morning. Here's the summary. Aizawa Shota has a neighbor who owns an apartment directly across from his and Hizashi's. Shota has never seen anyone else, but has accidentally gotten to know his young green-haired neighbor through panes of glass separating their apartment kitchens. Or, there is more going on behind the scenes, but both Izuku and Shota are curious about their late-night coffee buddies. Hizashi's curious about a new little listener. This fic is 15 chapters long, with just over 50,000 words. With that being said, here's chapter 1. Aizawa Shota usually doesn't think much about the other people around him. He has enough things on his plate between his friends, husband, patrols, and all the tasks his sadist of a boss likes to give him, since he no longer has a class to teach this year. So Shota doesn't really tend to connect with people, most of his social interactions being with co-workers at UA, and villains he's apprehending in alleyways at night. He just doesn't see the point of it, much to his husband's dismay and frustration. So it doesn't surprise Shota that he didn't notice right away the change to his nightly routine before patrols. He carries on as he usually would, saying goodnight to Zashi, feeding Bastard and Tilly, and then slipping into their apartment's kitchen for a much-needed hot cup of his death coffee, before grabbing his goggles and capture weapon and slipping out of their cozy apartment to start his patrol for the night. It's just like any other night. Zashi is already in bed asleep, after a late shift on his hands-up radio station, Bastard and Tilly curled up around him purring. Shota had just finished pouring his cup of death wish coffee when he felt a tingling sensation in the back of his mind. Someone was watching him, a sense he had picked up years and years ago while working as an underground hero, and even expanding on when he finally accepted Nezu's offer to teach at UA. Those hellions Zashi and Nomuri called students were more scheming and nosy than his friends gave them credit for, which was part of the reason he was happy to rid himself of a heroics class for the year, even if the usual looks he receives while walking around UA were now traded out for another type of look from students, especially 1B, who Vlad was probably telling scary rumors about Shota to now that he thinks about it. Looking around himself, Shota doesn't see anything that would cause him to feel watched until he's met with bright green eyes, staring at him from behind 2 panes of glass and a 2-meter gap. It's a young teenager, not unlike his own expelled first-year class this year in appearance. This teen is watching Shota from the apartment directly beside Zashi in his own apartment building, their kitchen windows happening to face each other almost exactly. The green-eyed teen doesn't show any reaction to being caught watching, just pausing for a moment before taking another sip from his own mug, making eye contact all the while. Shota honestly doesn't know what to do. He's not great with people, let alone young teens, on more than one occasion having accidentally scared kids in the past. Zashi and Nem are always telling him that he just needs practice, but Shota would rather not traumatize kids to achieve said practice, but Shota lifts his cat mug at the teen, still making eye contact, before chucking the rest of it and padding out of the kitchen, starting his patrol for the night. By the time his patrol is over, and he's slipping back into bed with Zashi and the cats after a much-needed hot shower, the strange green teen had completely faded from memory. It isn't until the next night that Shota's suddenly reminded of the odd interaction, because it happens again. The teen is just standing in his own lit-up kitchen, sipping from a plain gray mug, watching Shota in his own kitchen, his piercing green eyes staring into his own once the teen sees that Shota's looking his way. This time, though, the teen finishes his drink first and waves hesitantly before leaving to go further into a dark apartment. Shota just stares blankly at where the teen had been standing while he finishes the rest of his death wish coffee before once again slipping out of his apartment to start patrol. Shota's kind of embarrassed to say that this goes on for another 8 or so nights before he mentions it to Nomuri and Zashi during one of their get-togethers at the couple's apartment, a rare night off for all 3 pros. They were watching a cheesy rom-com movie and eating cheap food when suddenly Shota realized this is exactly the type of story his 2 friends love to hear about. "Wait, Sho, you've been having a staring contest with a teenager every night at midnight for over a week, and you didn't think to mention it?" His husband sounds incredulous, Nomuri vigorously nodding along with his words while she chews on a dessert from her place on the carpet. "I guess. I didn't really think about it. He just showed up, and the first couple of times I honestly forgot about it since I patrol right after." There's a brief silence where the 3 friends just eat food and listen to the credits music of their movie play behind them. He's going to regret this. He can feel it, but it's actually almost the time he usually shows up at the window. Before Shota can even finish his sentence, his two friends are up and off the floor to race into their small kitchen, shoving and laughing all the way. Shota pinches the bridge of his nose, sighing. He's definitely going to regret this. He stands correct when a couple of minutes later, the green-eyed teen who Shota eventually had realized also had green hair, walks into this kitchen and sees 3 sets of eyes all watching him instead of just Shota's like usual. Green eyes widen before the teen sets down his gray mug and leaves the kitchen again, not even flicking off the light, as he all but flees. Well, that was odd. Do you think we startled the little dude? I mean, probably. I'd be startled if I realized 3 people were watching me. The two continue to chat about what went wrong, while Shota just listens passively and watches his neighbor's empty, lit-up kitchen, wondering if the teen will eventually come back out, even if just to turn off the light. It's not until later, when the Murrays passed out on their living room couch and Zashi is getting ready for bed himself, that Shota notices the teen is back in his kitchen. Deciding to step into his own kitchen, to at least greet the teen like normal, Shota disregards his original task of bringing Zashi an extra blanket for bed, since the Murray stole a bunch for the couch from their room. Green eyes instantly zero in on Shota once he enters the kitchen, before peering behind him to look for other people, probably wary after earlier. Shota keeps the kid company, while the greenette makes and drinks some coffee. He had eventually found out what the teen was drinking after watching him make it a couple of times. Just before he goes to leave the kitchen, the teen does something that catches Shota off guard. What happened to the other 2 from earlier? The teen consign. Staring at him for a long moment, Shota sighs, just thinking over what to say, having learned JSL in high school for Zashi. They're both getting ready for bed. And after a second, sorry if we startled you earlier. They wanted to meet you. This seems to really confuse the teen, as his eyebrows pinch together and his head tilts to one side, reminding Shota vaguely of a cute animal. Why would they want to meet me? At this, Shota pauses again, which apparently was a mistake because the teen quickly turns away from the window and makes an exit from his kitchen, this time turning off the light. Definitely an odd reaction. Something about it reminding Shota of when he himself was a teen, but that could just be him projecting and being paranoid. Deciding to put the weird interaction out of his mind, Shota picks up his armload of blankets and heads to meet Zashi in their room. It isn't until a couple of nights later that Shota again sees the teen in his kitchen. This time Shota signs a quick greeting before drinking his coffee, the teen looking tired and nervous before signing back his own greeting. After the brief disappearance every single night, the two have run into each other at midnight in their adjacent kitchens to drink coffee, sometimes trading signed conversations, oddly enough, with Shota doing the majority of the talking. The talking is one difference from before Zashi and Nem startled the kid, who eventually signed that Shota could call him Midori, which felt a bit on the nose to Shota, but all the same, he started to use green as his sign name, in return telling the teen to call him Eraser. The other difference from before is Nem and Zashi now demand updates about the teen nearly every day, one time startling Vlad into choking on his water in the teacher's lounge when asking how Shota's kid was doing. She had gotten glared at for a while after that, since now the other staff members ask about his mystery kid every once in a while, mainly as a tease, but all the same. Zashi had taken to calling Midori his little listener, and the green kit, much to Shota's dread. Months passed like this, with only a couple of incidents where the teen would disappear for a couple of days, one time even going away for 2 weeks. It was a stressful time for the 3 friends, as they didn't know what could have caused such a long absence. But eventually Midori had returned to the kitchen and sheepishly waved at Shota before chugging his mug of coffee and padding back out of the kitchen. After that, they went back to nightly meetings. It wasn't until the teen went missing again for a couple of weeks, almost a year after they first met, that the trio became really concerned again. Sadly, though, with the new school year starting, they didn't have much time that they could dedicate to worrying or figuring out how to find their missing Midori. The first day of classes came around, and Shota wasn't looking forward to dealing with his own batch of hellions again. He really enjoyed all the free time last year. Maybe he could just expel this class as well. As usual, Shota slipped into his yellow sleeping bag before slithering into his classroom, just listening to the rowdy voices of the other teens, counting the seconds it would take for someone to notice him on the floor at the front of the class. Last year's batch had taken 20 seconds before one teen accidentally tripped on him, alerting the rest to his existence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there it is. There's a little gasp from the left side of the classroom, which Shota takes as his cue to get out of his sleeping bag and address his new Class 1A. It took you 8 seconds to notice me. My name is Aizawa Shota. I'll be your homeroom teacher for this year. Put these on and... Green eyes. There are bright, piercing green eyes staring at Shota, the same green eyes that had been absent for the past couple of weeks. Midori was standing in front of him. Midori was one of his students. His brain buffered for a second, just staring at the teen that he's been interacting with for a year now from his kitchen window. Put these on and head to Gym Gamma. Midori, stay here so I can talk with you. A couple of the teens cast the green-haired one curious looks, and a brown-haired girl smiles at Midori, seemingly offering support before leaving with the rest of the class. One teen, a blonde, smirks at Midori, also seemingly saying something to him before grabbing his gym uniform and stomping out of the classroom. Silence reigns in the now empty classroom, neither of the neighbors moving. Just as Shota opens his mouth, the teen speaks up. Hey, Eraser. It's nice to see you. Midori's voice is exactly what his voice looks like it would be based on his exterior. Nomuri owes him money now for guessing their green teen's voice correctly. Hey, kid. Want to tell me where you've been these past few weeks? All right, everyone. This concludes Chapter 1 of See You in the Morning. Chapter 2 will be next. I hope you all are enjoying this so far. Let me know your thoughts and reactions. This is a favorite fic of mine. And as always, thank you so much for listening.